The April 17th Township Committee meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by faxing notice of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City and the Star Ledger on January the 6th, 2023, and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and the Star Ledger on January 9, 2023, and January 10, 2023. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Well done. Here.
Mr. Shanker?
Here.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Here.
Mayor Patali?
Here. I have a moment of silence for private reflection. Okay, guest presentations, we have none. Addition, deletion, late agenda, none. Early public comment. We have none.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Keep right on going.
I like that.
Right on going, okay?
I like that. 2023 municipal budget presentation. Cynthia, you're up.
Okay. Mayor, committee, thank you for this opportunity to present to you the 2023 budget. I want to first start out saying that this year has been challenging, to say the least, and I've had the privilege of meeting with each and every one of you more than once, so it was a collaborative effort. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the department heads for their hard work and dedication, and our administrator, and also our auditor and other professionals that were involved. This was a collective project, not just myself. So with that said, we'll take it to the presentation. Get it started here. So 2023 has seen unprecedented challenges. This is an overview of what
Can't
you'll
hear?
This is an overview of what you're going to see on this budget presentation. We're going to talk about the challenges, how we got here, what we're going to do to make it work, what is in this budget, of course, how do we prepare for the future budgets, and what do we see that future to look like. Part of the challenges has to do with the rising inflation impacts. Although 2022 to 2023, we saw a slight decrease in the inflation rate, goods and services have still holding at an all-time high, and they're reflective in this budget. One of our largest challenges is the Lake Lenape Dam. It's finally come to fruition where construction costs have been defined, engineering cost, and the amount that we're going to have to pay is included in this budget. Last meeting, we did a PowerPoint presentation to communicate what the Lake Lenape Dam costs would look like, what we should be expected, and the biggest challenges was the award of the contract was over $4.5 million more than the engineer's estimate. Thank you. And the township splits the cost 50-50 regardless of what those costs are. Another challenge that we came across this year was the fuel contamination at the Public Works. And I'll just pass over the mic because our administrator can give us a little better history and background on that.
So during some of our routine checks on our underground storage tanks, some ground contamination was noted, and it triggered a remediation at Public Works. Right now, that remediation is underway. We did some soil testing. We're still waiting back on the results of the test to see how far the contamination spread. Right now, we're planning on not only fixing the tank that we have, but fixing the tank that needs to be repaired, but moving the diesel and gasoline tanks above ground. Due to our insurance, due to our tank insurance, this process is going to have to actually start this year. We were hoping to push it off till next year, but the tanks have reached a point in their useful life where they have to be pulled out of the ground and put above ground so we can get insurance on them. Right now, we have an open bond ordinance for $500,000. We're going to ask to increase that bond to $700,000 to anticipate moving the diesel tank above ground. Originally, we were just going to do the gasoline tank, but it looks like we're going to have to do the diesel tank as well because of the insurance problems that we're going to have on the site because we have an open claim at Public Works.
In addition to that, we are seeking out participation in the LEAP grant. That's the shared services. We have been in conversation with the county to help. They want to help offset some of those costs. So hopefully the impact won't be the $700,000 that we're looking for, but we do have to create that appropriation and charge it and then get reimbursed. So we're looking for the county to do the same agreement that we have with the dam, but them share in the costs of the tanks, since the county uses those tanks, I think at a ratio of 65-35 or something. Yeah, 65-35. So we're looking for them to share in those costs as well, so they're not as impactful to our taxpayers. Our Central Municipal Court, this is a joint agreement that we went into starting last year. We have seen 2022 being a full year of recognizing the joint court with the county, but we also have seen increased costs to run that county and a significant decrease in revenues that we anticipated. We also don't see as much oversight. We don't have the ability to have that control like we would like to do. We have a lot of communication challenges. You contact them, we don't hear back from them, they don't answer the phones. Bail reform has created some challenges as far as the revenues that we're going to collect, that we would have collected prior to bail reform. The legalization of cannabis. Prior to the legalization of cannabis, there was tickets that were written. Those tickets are no longer written, so there's no more court costs and fees that come in for that. And then enforcement and code enforcement violations and zoning infractions, those items we aren't seeing move through the court systems the way we would like to. So we see some challenges with our court, so that is affected as well in this budget. This is a little chart that shows what kind of revenues and expenses were back from 2016. And if you notice, from 2016 to 2019, we were in the $600,000 and $700,000 ranges for our revenues. In 2021, this is after COVID. We took out 2020 and COVID because our court systems were basically closed. In 2021, we anticipated $300,000 in total revenues, and then 2022, we only collected $224,000 of our anticipated revenues, while our costs that we paid over to the joint municipal court were well over $571,000, seeing us in the net as a deficit in the $300,000, almost $400,000 ranges, and we don't see that coming out. We may be losing less, but it's still costing the taxpayers more than we think it should. So how did we get here? This is an important slide to point out because our tax base is based on our net valuation taxable. This is the value of our township. This is the rates of all commercial, industrial, residential property. For 2023, our net valuation taxable is over $2 billion. But if you look over the years, it really hasn't changed that much. In fact, it has significantly decreased over the last several years. If you look in 2019, we lost $45 million in ratables. If you look in 2021, we lost $30 million in ratables. And we haven't picked up even anywhere near that amount in the ratable base. And just FYI, we need $20 million in ratables to equal to 1 penny on the tax rate. So Hamilton Township, over the last 5 years, has lost $42 million in ratable base. That's significant. That's more than 2 tax points or 2 cents on the tax rate. Okay. Our appropriations have gone up pretty significantly between 2022 and 2023, and we're not alone in this. This is across the state. The state saw pension increases, insurance increases, solid waste recycling, cost of MIS, our computer systems, our public works and police department have seen increases in their cost of maintenances, and our utilities, our fuel, electric, gasoline. Those totals equate to almost $861,000 or a little over $861,000 or over 10% increase in our budget. That equates to 4 cents. Okay. On our revenues, we are seeing a decline in our revenues. We had to bump up our surplus just so we would minimize the increase in the taxation. But if we look at our local revenues over last year, we actually didn't reach our anticipated goals for a net difference of $672,000 at a loss in revenues, and that equals 3 cents. So we have 4 in the appropriation side, 3 cents in the revenue. We're looking at 7 cents right there. So history and comparison on our local tax revenue. To the left, where you see the $18 million number, we have had over the last several years 0 or very little tax increases. And when you have that, when inflation is going up and goods and services are costing more and you're not meeting your amounts that are needed to run the government, it creates deficits. So this is a slide just to kind of show you how it's been flat over the last several years. And this is the same slide, only converting it to a tax rate. Those levies have seen virtually no changes, and so has the tax rate. And if you look at the 2021, the asterisk there, that's the $30 million loss of ratables, but we did increase taxes, but we didn't increase how much we were receiving from the taxpayers. It was because of the ratable base. We've taken on more responsibilities. Maintaining maintenance to aging of our public buildings and to maintain our grounds. We took on the MISPA Annex. We have the MUA building that we're now responsible for. We have HVAC repairs to our aging facilities at the Police Athletic Building and also here at Town Hall, and also the maintenance of recreation fields. New legislation is always burdensome to municipal governments. This year we've seen 4 great ones. New legislation for the new lead paint hazard program. This is a program that requires our code inspections to rental units that were built over from 1978. We have to do a lead inspection. So that requires more people to go out there and do more inspections. We have to have our businesses maintain liability insurance. We had to purchase a software to be able to manage that process. Because of the increased cyber fraud, we have a new cybersecurity policy that has been decided on through the JIF that we participate and that we do need. As you know, we have been attacked before, and this cybersecurity is an additional policy to our insurance in the event of something very, very critical to happen. And then, of course, the local public contracts law is ever changing. This is our purchasing laws. With the agreements in Belarus and Russia. We are prohibited from doing business with any companies that have shares or relationships with Belarus and Russia. Iran has always been there, and that certification has been increased for all of our purchasing as well. So we have had to implement some processes to make sure those certifications are on file. What we're doing to help mitigate the impact on this budget is we're not filling open positions. There's a list of open positions that you see there, and in this budget we are not filling those positions, and we're going to leave them open. We've had a reduction in departmental requests. When the budget requests were first put in back in October and November, we looked at what the impact was and what the tax base would see a result in, and we went back to our departments and we saw, police department came back with a 20% reduction, public works 16%, and about 2% on other departments. We're also looking to market and sell the MUA building. We have had many discussions in reference to that, so that's what we're doing to help. We're revisiting and amending redevelopment ordinances. We're marketing our vacant land of township parcels so that we can get them back on the tax rolls. We're looking to appropriate placement of cannabis businesses in hopes to get some of that revenue once those businesses get open. We're monitoring the status of existing redevelopments. Cotton Mill is moving, CarMax, Jiffy Lube, and some others. And we're actively seeking potential redevelopers for the racetrack. We are reviewing all fee ordinances. As you'll see later on this agenda, that is one of the topics. We're self-financing. I don't know why that does that. We're self-financing our debt. So we do fund accounting in the municipal world. So our current fund has some surplus, some fund balance, and instead of going out to the market and borrowing for our capital improvements, we're actually lending, the current fund is actually lending the capital fund money at no interest, no cost of issuance, so that we don't see, and we did that last year, so we don't see those interest payments or any cost of issuance in this year's budget, which is a plus. We're also investing our idle funds. We're taking advantage of the high interest rates that we see, and hopefully getting in some good significant revenues for this year for that. And of course, we're exploring additional shared service options. This budget, we are seeking local finance approval. Last meeting, Brett did a presentation on the dam. And that dam had requires a $250,000 down payment that is required on that $5 million authorization. And we're going to seek local finance approval to waive that down payment so that we don't have to include that $250,000 in that budget, or equal to a little over a penny. We do have a legally balanced budget. Our budget's a little over $33 million. So what's in this budget? Unfortunately, yes, there is a tax increase this year. So let's see what it looks like. History and comparisons over the years, you can see that the budget is slightly up. I have taken out grants. If you look at the this line at the bottom, this is the budget number that you really want to look at, because grants fluctuate in and out, and they're also offset by revenues. So this particular budget year, we have a $3.7 million grant. So if you see the $33 million, don't be so shocked, because $3.7 million is part of the grant. So I've reduced that out, and at the bottom line, you can see the differences of the budget, which it actually is removing those grants. This budget year with the local purpose tax, we are going to see our tax rate go up to 0.952. That's 95 cents on every $100 worth of assessed value, or that equates to a 0.58% increase. So that's 5-cent increase, okay? Or 6.48%. This is a summary of all the tax rates. The municipality collects the taxes for the county and the schools, as well as our own local purpose tax, and then we send out to the county and the schools their portion. And we do send out the county and the schools' portion regardless of the amount that we collect. So for example, if we only collect 98% of the taxes, we still have to pay the school and the county 100% of their levy. So in that instance, we have to actually increase our budget slightly by the percentage of the collections that we don't collect. So that is a picture of what it looks like. I have heard from both schools, the local and the regional, and they do plan to put their budgets with the maximum 2% increase. So the school and the regional, local and the regional. This is the proportion of the taxes of how they're divided up between the local and the county and the school. As you can see by the pie chart, the school gets most of the piece, and then the municipality, and then the county. This is a chart that the taxpayers can look at to see what they should expect to see their tax amount be. To the left is the property assessment. So for example, if your property was valued at $175,000, your total tax bill should be right around $5,800, and the local portion of that is about $1,600. And I just picked a number. However, the average taxpayer in Hamilton Township is valued at $165,200, and they should see a tax bill for the municipal portion of $1,573, and that's just $96 more than last year. Okay. How is that 1573 broken up? General government takes 52% of that. That includes all of your administrative type services, your insurances and such. Public safety sees about 31% of that 1573. Public works sees about 10%, and solid waste sees about 7%. And all else is the 52%. I don't know why that does that. What does public safety include? It includes police and fire protection, EMS, Office of Emergency Management, that's for emergencies that are going on, the Central Court, Animal Control, and Length of Service Awards Program for our volunteers. Public Works sees road maintenance and construction, stormwater inspection and management, flood mitigation, which includes the Lake Lenape Dam oversight, park maintenance, recreation facility maintenance, snow removal, street lighting, and roadside litter abatements, and clean communities. Our solid waste services include garbage collection, recycling, landfill fees, yard waste collection, and public education awareness. Our general governmental services are everything else. That's to run the administration office, the finance office, our auditor, legal, engineering, planning, zoning, construction office, the assessor's collection office, vital statistics, MIS, and recreation and youth services. We do continue to invest in our public safety, our parks, our community events, and our roads. It's not slated out of this budget at all. We are continuing and maintaining all services as we usually are. Our 2023 capital plan and capital budget is included in this budget, as it should be. And there are some highlights in here that I'd like to talk about. We have the improvements to Lake Lenape Dam, as we already talked about. We will be introducing that bond ordinance next meeting. And the funding sources will be through the $4.6 million FEMA grant that we're receiving and sharing that with the county, and through a bond ordinance as well. This slide is very impactful because it shows where our debt is going to be. After that $5 million increase, it looks like our debt is going to be right over about $16.5 million, which is significantly higher than we have in the past years. However, without the dam, it would probably, it would be about $13 million, or just slightly over last year. This is an outstanding percentage of debt throughout the county, and I point this out to you because we are not the highest. Actually, we're in the 14 of the 23 municipalities. Now, this is 2020 data. It's all I could get off of the websites. But with that $5 million inserted, we still fall in the 14th place out of the 23 municipalities in the county. Our debt would then be increased to 0.535. So we're still right where we would be. And this is an average, what the percentage of debt load is within the county. Atlantic City is obviously the anomaly. So average outstanding with Atlantic City is about 1.21%. We can go up to legally 3.5%, but we are nowhere near that. Average without Atlantic City is about 0.765. So we are still significantly lower in the debt that we hold. Included in our 2023 capital plan and budget is to improvements to roadways. We have Atlantic Avenue Phase 1 and Phase 2. We also have New York Avenue and Phase 5. We're paving Crocus Street. And in Harding Lakes, Nelson, Liberty, and Oliver Avenue. Those funding sources are come from New Jersey DOT grants and existing ordinances that we have outstanding. And there'd be no new issuances for 2023. This capital budget also includes a remount for a new ambulance, and the funding source is our 2023 capital improvement fund. So we are resurrecting the pay-as-you-go part of this budget. We're not going to issue debt for this. We also are funding the Leapy Track expansion. It's going to be funded through some existing ordinances that we already have, and also part of the 2023 capital improvement fund. We have some improvements to our municipal complexes. Again, we're going to fund that through our capital improvement fund. There's some repairs that are needed to the fountain at Memorial Park and to our HVAC systems here at Town Hall and also at the PAL building. Our public safety equipment, these are for new dispatch radios. We funded a little bit last year in the operating budget. We have to fund some more in this budget. So again, no more issuance of debt. This will be paid with our capital improvement fund. CDBG funds, these are community development block grants, are going to fund at our Underhill Park ADA sidewalks and crosswalks to connect the existing infrastructure there. Also ADA renovations to the restrooms and ADA accessible fencing, all through grant funds. This budget includes the maintenance and enhancing of existing services. It invests in our community development. It maintains and improves the township's infrastructure. It also provides funding for public events such as the Cove, 9/11, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, the holiday lighting in the park, National Night Out, and Public Works and Police Services for the Halloween Parade. We continue to invest in our employees. Our future looks at our Phase 2 of the tax map revisions. We're going to look at a recycling initiative. We're going to be evaluating additional shared services offerings and prioritize future projects around infrastructure grants, create efficiency initiatives, and other opportunities. Our future plans are to leave the Central Municipal Court by the end of this year. Last meeting, I believe we passed a resolution to leave that court, and we're going to join Hamilton Shared Court. Below is a little snapshot about what that should look like. The 2023, we do have to continue to commit, and we're going to be paying the county almost $580,000 for an expected revenue of $224,000. In the Hamilton Shared Services Court, they're going to charge us $150,000. That $150,000 will come off of the revenue first. So in an anticipated 224 revenues, that would leave us with $74,000 to the good, and then we would share that with Hamilton. So the township would receive $37,000 of that shared cost, or shared revenue, I'm sorry. So that's another 2 cents. This is a future budget projection. Of course, if everything stays the same, we all know that the decisions that we make today affect the future. And if we would have known the future of 2023 and 2022, we wouldn't be sitting here with this tax increase right now. However, this just gives you a little snapshot of what the future budgets would look like. The process to adopt this budget, should you introduce and approve it tonight, we would have a public hearing to allow the public to comment on the budget on May 15th. And then if any amendments are necessary, we would either, depending on what type of amendments they were, we may not need to have another public hearing on that, or if the amendments or no amendments happen, we can adopt on May 15th as well. Any questions?
I just have two.
Okay.
You said that the county, we were going to go in partnership with the county for the leak to help us with that. In the event that that doesn't happen, do we have a plan in place for that?
You're talking about for the fuel island? Well, we have to do the bond ordinance for the full cost. So that's this $500,000 to the $700,000. That's the estimated cost to replace the 2 tanks. We would have to pay for those if the county doesn't. But I don't see the county not participating because they have a greater interest in those fuel tanks than we do.
Yeah, they have 65%. Right, so I was just concerned about that.
We're in conversation with them.
Okay, and just one other question on page 12. I see that there's delinquent taxes, 400,000. Do we have a plan to collect those fees?
Delinquent taxes, that's actually a calculation that we do in municipal government. The calculation is based on previous year's collections and the amount that we need to collect. The tax collector sells the levy on the delinquent taxes, and these are the taxes that are collected as a result of those sales.
So they're not delinquent?
They are delinquent. Anything that's delinquent as of 12/31. Then we have a tax sale. We just had a tax sale last week.
Okay.
So we sell those liens to private lien holders, and then they pay those taxes. And that's the income that comes in that goes against those delinquent taxes.
All right, so with that being said, does that still leave us at the 14.89%?
You want to explain?
Actually, this item's a good thing, because you have less delinquent tax to collect, which meant that people paid better during the year. So this one going down, even though it's a decrease in your revenue, is a positive thing, because people paying at a higher rate than they were before.
Okay.
So we'd like to see this go down and all the way down to nothing, if possible. But we get the money a year in advance by having this go down.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, the decrease in ratables, can you explain, was that through reassessment of the properties, or how did that come about?
Yeah, tax appeals.
Tax appeals,
Hamilton Mall.
Hamilton Mall,
Hamilton Mall,
racetrack.
right.
$75 million for loss with the Hamilton Mall. I think I've stated that here in this meeting before. It's a loss that hard to come back from.
Yeah.
If they start doing more business, if something happens to make them at a higher rate, how does that work? If they get restored, some of the places like in Jackson, malls are doing super duper, but we aren't. So
Well,
what happens then?
The more businesses that open up, the more homes that get built, the more your ratables are going to go up. When you turn vacant land into, construction properties and open them up, your ratables are going to go up.
I mean, but if they had an appeal like 2 or 3 years ago, and then are they reassessed in 5 years?
Yeah, it
to-
could be, yeah.
And if they actually do something to increase their revenue, it will also
Yes.
go up.
They would get what's called an added assessment.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they improve the property to the tune of $500,000, Bill Johnson's office would do an added assessment, excess value that they put over the property.
Oh, okay. All right, so that could be helpful if we,
It's checked every time there's a sale.
uh-huh.
Bill gets a form. He evaluates it, and then he decides whether or not he wants to increase, decrease, or reduce.
Okay, well, let's hope for the best.
Anybody else?
Mayor, my comments are simply, I want to thank all the people in the township, town hall here, the police department, public works, all the departments. When we originally started with this budget, it was not as good as it is right now. Not that this is good, but they all went back and they dug deep to try and overcome the 4% that we talked about with the rising cost. Unfortunately, there's only so much you can do. You have to run a township. But I appreciate and thank each and every one of them for what they did. I also want everybody to understand, and I think it's important to note, that we used, correct me if I'm wrong, about $1 million more in surplus than
Yes,
we
we did.
have in previous years or ever.
Yes, we
So it's worse than what you're seeing, okay? So we did that in an effort to keep this where it's at. We did the cuts in an effort to keep this as where it's at. It's not, none of us came here today thinking that this is a great budget. It's a budget that's going to get us to next year. I think we've taken some steps in the right direction. We are getting back to the pay-as-you-go, which for some reason we got away from, which is very important. When we start funding our own needs, it's extremely important. We are, with the dam being a lot more money than we all projected, that didn't help the situation. It's almost like it's a perfect storm at this point in time, but we're going to survive it. We're going to get past all this, and I think this budget is the first step of moving in the right direction. So thank you again, everyone, for your cooperation and your help. That's all.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Committeeman Schenker said and say thank you to everybody. It was a lot of work. There were a lot of nights where us committee people, we can't, we have our jobs during the day. We would get here at 5 o'clock, and Cynthia, Brett, Greg, whoever would stay to go over this with us multiple times. I've been here, this will be my 4th year here, up here on the dais, and I think this is probably the most that everybody has gone over this year, all the committee members.
Yes.
I emphasized that a couple of times, that everybody needs to sit down and understand everything that's going on here. And everybody did a really good job to come back and cut where they could and still have that attitude that we're still gonna supply the services that everybody is used to, and do our best at it. So it's, many years I was the guy sitting out there that would come out during these meetings and jump up and down and yell and scream that our taxes aren't going down. But let me tell you something, when you're up here and you have to figure all this out, and like Cynthia said, it was these past couple of years, inflation has been crazy. We all know our electric bills are higher, our gas bills are higher. I was looking at my gas bill the other day, compared it to last year. I said, I use less gas, but the price is way higher. So, we did better. We had more fires in the fireplace. We tried to cut back, but I'm still not saving any money. Well, guess what? the same price that everybody out there is paying for gas to heat your home, that's what we're paying in the township, and it's going up. And, you know, we want our police officers out on the road, and I don't know if anybody has noticed or not, but gasoline prices have been up. I mean, they're going down now, but we were still buying gasoline for the police to be out, for Public Works to be out, and all those costs are up. And ACUA increased the cost for our trash, and we got to pay for it somehow. And unfortunately, it's an increase in our taxes. So, but once again, kudos to everybody that came, met, sat down, figured things out, and got us to where we are right now.
The other thing that I don't think this was mentioned, but in the overall assessment, the medical insurance plans were, they were negotiated in a way so that we are paying less, but we're still paying more.
Yeah.
And
insurances went up.
this is what the state threw upon us, which was,
Uncontrollable.
yes. They also, I noticed the liability insurance, 297,000 liability insurance, and that went through the roof. So we have a lot of things that we've dealt with, and I think the overall tax increase is fair for, and what was really worked upon, we are very fortunate to have you as the CFO, and of course our tax auditor and
Yes.
Brett.
Yes. So, moving on.
Do you want Leon to make any closing comments? Do you have any?
Go ahead.
Just, the perfect storm is the right word for this year. And the office has 51 towns that we do. And this is a common theme. You're not alone. You've seen in the paper and watched what other towns have been doing. There was a 14-cent announcement today from Pleasantville. If you watched, Summers Point was over 8, Ventnor was over 7. So this is everywhere. This is not something that you caused. It's not something that you could have controlled. All these costs in the perfect storm have hit everyone. Yeah, there are a couple towns that, for various reasons, may not be up as much, but they're all still up. So I think you've done an awesome job in getting this together. We've met before the year was over. I was going from town to town, forewarn them that this is going to happen, look out, we got this, and this is all going up. So it's not something you did. You're not on your own on this. It's everywhere. And on May 15th, we'll have further discussion and see if there's any, we're self-exam, so the state won't review this budget. So it's good to go as it is right now, unless you want to make changes to it. And you're inside the caps, you meet all the laws and regulations, so we're good with all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Leon.
you. All right, 3B, resolution to introduce the 2023 budget and to set the public hearing for May 15th, 2023.
So moved?
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote?
Mr. Cheek? Yes. Mrs. Link?
yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, 4A, discussion. Increase the fee for additional trash carts. Mr. Administrator.
As we were just discussing, the annual tip fees to get rid of trash at the ACUA's landfill went up 11% this year. That combined with the increase in cost for the trash cart themselves went up. We're proposing to increase the fee from $130 per year to $155 per year to get an additional trash cart.
Any questions, discussion?
How many of these do you generally, that are requested every year? Because these are extra carts now, these aren't.
It depends. It's usually between 150 and 200.
Okay.
Are these for the recycle or the blue?
This is for the brown Township branded cart that
Okay.
we give out for additional trash. That people request the additional cart to throw away additional trash.
Any other questions or discussion?
The biggest way, and I'm just going to say this in public, the biggest way to prevent needing an additional cart is recycling more. It's possible to recycle more than you throw away. I'm just throwing that out there. There's really, we have some residents that rent 2, 3, sometimes 4 additional carts on top of the cart that we issue. That's significant.
So you're saying that if they really put some of those things to recycle, it would be much,
There would be no need for an additional cart. This is a service that we provide. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I think Egg Harbor Township, do they give out additional carts over there? Do they? They do. Right. So this is something that we do in Hamilton. Our costs have gone up, so we have to pass those costs on to the taxpayer. But if you're responsible with recycling, you really shouldn't need one.
So there's no other cost to anyone who gets an extra can? In other words, they're creating more trash.
They're creating more trash.
The average household has one,
Right.
right? So they pay the $155 for an extra can, and they dump as much as they want
Yes.
$155 per year.
$155
per year. I'm sorry, okay.
You have one? Cycle more.
They eat too much.
I have more recycle than trash. It's called Amazon.
It takes time to recycle correctly.
They do have Amazon box.
So do we want to go ahead and,
I'll motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go ahead and write this ordinance? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Four B, discussion to authorize the preparation of an ordinance to create a position entitled CDL trainer ranging from $2,000 to $3,500 annually. Brett?
This is actually a title, it's creating a title for extra duties for somebody in Public Works to train CDL drivers. Our JIF will pay to train the person. This is something new that came down from the feds. We can no longer train in-house unless the person that's training is certified. So we propose to get one person trained and then have that person train our drivers that don't have the CDLs.
Right. And then the federal government's going to pay for that for us, right?
No,
Of course not. But they mandate it,
they mandate it.
yes. So there you go.
It would cost the township roughly $3,000 per person to get them trained by an outside company, a certified outside company.
So this is much more economical to do.
This would be roughly a $2,500 stipend for the year, and that person could train as many people as we would need them to train. Right now, we have 2 people in Public Works that require training. So that's $6,000 right now if we had to send them out to source vendor.
Understood.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Make a motion to prepare this ordinance.
I have a motion.
Second?
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Moving on. Public hearing, ordinance 2035-2023, ordinance amending Chapter 301, Article 1 of the Township Code to create a no parking zone on certain portions of Brandywine Road in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public? Motion to close.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
5B, public hearing, ordinance 2036-2023, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees, part-time seasonal hourly rate. And this is increasing the rates for the Cove employees. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Motion to close.
A motion to close?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Motion to move the ordinance.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Public hearing, ordinance 2037-2023, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees, Public Works Department, Finance Department, Township Clerk's Office. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Motion to close.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close public. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it.
Motion to move the ordinance.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
6A, introduction, ordinance 2038-2023, an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 5 in Block 663 as shown on the tax map, Township of Hamilton, granting to the owner or owners of said real property contiguous to same the right to prior refusal to purchase such land in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey.
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any question, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Introduction of ordinance 2039-2023, an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 38 and Block 983 as shown on the tax map, Township of Hamilton, granting to the owner or owners of said real property contiguous to same the right to prior refusal to purchase such land in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Six C, introduction ordinance 2040-2023, ordinance of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, establishing a single joint municipal court with the town of Hamilton, repealing the amending Chapter 52 of the General Ordinances of the Township of Hamilton, and approving a joint municipal court agreement for the operation of the joint municipal court with the town of Hamilton.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Seven A, award a non-fair and open contract to Action Uniform Company LLC, amount not to exceed $39,000.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
7B, resolution to award a contract to HIP Renewal LLC for the remedial action for the Township of Hamilton landfill site pursuant to a grant awarded by the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund and the New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
Mr. Mayor, this action should be taken after the consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay. Moving on to consent agenda. We have A through I.
Make a motion to move the consent agenda A through I.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I am in favor, but I just had one question. I just want to understand it a little better. I know it's a good thing to do for G, the resolution authorizing person-to-person transfer of liquor license.
Okay.
I just needed, and Brent said it to me, but I didn't print it out. I'm sorry.
Are we leaving this as part of the consent? Or
We
is
won't-
it now being separate for discussion?
Just asking a question on it.
I was just asking a question. I'm not
Okay.
against it.
The former Famous Dave's establishment is transferring their liquor license over to Hamilton Commons, which is the parent of all the buildings in there. So this is a good thing because it would keep the liquor license on site in hopes that another restaurant may move into that vacant building. They could sell the liquor license back to that
Okay.
establishment.
So do they sell it to them or just transfer it?
I believe they would sell it.
Okay.
Brett, who owns
Thank
the
you.
building?
So, go ahead.
Hamilton
Commons?
Commons, yes.
Right, okay, so that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna back this up again. So I have a motion and a second to move A through I. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it.
Do we have to go back to 7B?
Yep, we're going back to 7B.
Okay.
So this is resolution to award a contract to HIP Renewal LLC for the remedial action for the Hamilton Township landfill site pursuant to a grant awarded by the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund and the New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
So move.
Question,
I have a motion,
I have a question.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Questions?
Question, HIP, we gave a 5-month extension. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like a month ago, right in that area. If we award a contract to them, does the contract end at the end of that extension?
No, well, that's a good question.
I mean, if we give him a contract, he has a contract and not a deadline on his extension. If we give him a contract that ends with his extension, that would be one thing. But to give him an overall blanket contract when his agreement only goes for ballpark November.
I just want to be clear, 7B, is that to accept the grant?
It's a grant to us,
Right.
but if we give him a contract, that could be for 10 years. There's no dates, there's no termination date, there's nothing.
I don't remember seeing a date.
This is a pass-through grant, so basically, we add this $3 million to our budget, and when the bills come in, we pay the
But
bills.
what terminates his contract in 5 months? Just say in November, we terminate his contract. He still has a contract. We terminate his agreement that we talked about a month ago. But then he still has a contract. We control the funds because it comes to us. But legally, is he still under contract? Because you're giving him an open blanket contract.
You're-
I mean, I could see us accepting the grant, which we did in the last thing, what was it, we accepted the grant. But now you're allocating someone to take the same amount of money with no deadline dates, no anything. And if that's the case, it could be another 12 years that works off of this grant money. Should we table it?
I think we have to accept the grant, don't we?
No, we accepted the
You
grant.
accepted the grant.
We
I thought
already
this-
accepted the grant.
this is
issuing a
certifying.
contract with an open-end date.
Okay, maybe according to 7B on the first page, the synopsis, I was under the impression that this was certifying the grant money.
No, on
No, we,
8I, I believe
I'm
it
talking about
was.
7B.
Okay,
Yeah.
8I, we accepted the grant.
Okay,
Now, this firm,
this is a resolution
HIP
to award a
a
contract.
contract that's open-ended,
I see.
with no finish date, no start date, nothing, just that he has a contract for the same amount of money of roughly $3 million.
We hold the money.
We hold the
Yes,
money, but
so if
if
it's
he
not-
doesn't perform,
Rich,
what?
can I speak?
Go ahead.
We hold the money, so if he doesn't perform, it's still our money.
It's
not
our
his
money, but he's under contract forever. We can't terminate him because
Forever's a
there's,
mighty long time.
well,
Is he
okay,
under contract forever, Bob?
he's under contract for 5 months. As of
No, he
now.
has a redevelopment agreement,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
for 5 months.
Yeah, the term of the contract is 5 months,
Of this contract?
yes.
Yeah,
Now, that doesn't mean you can't extend it, it doesn't mean
Yeah,
it can't be,
can
you know.
extend it.
but we can end the contract in 5 months. If we give him a contract for $3 million, in my eyes, and I could be wrong,
It depends on how the grant reads.
I think we should table it and look into it, to be honest with
Glad
you.
to do that.
Pardon me?
I'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 12 years, and we haven't gone anywheres yet, and this is $3 million that we control.
But we are getting close to the finish line.
Jeff?
So I'm comfortable telling you that the contract will end in 5 months. I'm also comfortable in telling you it can be extended by you at any time in the future.
Okay? I agree with, I totally agree with you. But with this, so the contract will end with, the $3 million contract will end with his contract that we gave him a month ago ballpark.
The
Or it
answer
will
is-
be extended.
Well, we
But
didn't,
we have to vote on it.
yes.
Yes.
did we give him a contract? Or we gave him an extension on the?
Extension.
An extension
Gave
on our
him an
redevelopment.
extension on redevelopment agreement.
Okay, so that's, it's really
On
two different things.
redevelopment.
Yeah.
So can we put in this?
You could
That-
put whatever you want in this, but what I'm hearing is it's a five-month term, subject to being reopened at a later date by y'all.
Yeah. Not an open-end contract for $3 million. I have no problem with that, as long as it all ends when the previous thing we issued a month ago, it all ends at the same time.
But see, I want to be clear on something. I said it depends on what the grant says. If the authority which gave you the grant has language that says that the developer has certain rights, he's got those rights. Okay? So one of those rights might be to take longer or take less time. But you control it.
And then the land gets the grant money and the approvals, is that correct?
We get it.
Yes, yeah, the owners of the land. I have no problem with having the $3 million contract end when his 5-month development agreement ends. And then this way, if he's making progress, we move forward, we move forward. I have no problem with that.
I agree.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end. You're just saying hypothetically in case it does.
Well, if nothing happens, we can end it and get somebody else in here.
Right, but if it does happen, then we'll just extend it.
We can keep right on going with it,
Okay.
yes.
I, well,
But we
Jeff-
own this, right? We
Yes.
own this? We own this?
we own the
The
grant
landfill.
We own the landfill.
And the grant,
and the grant.
but if we issue him a $3 million contract and nothing gets done, he's still under contract if there's not an end date.
Okay.
Can we hear from you, Jeff, or?
Let's take this now. So just a couple points about how the process works, and help me out if I get out of bounds legally here. The amount of money in this grant was applied for by the township in March of 2022, when the application was approved to be filed with the HDSRF at that point. The DEP approved that, went to the EDA, that was approved in November of last year, and we just got the contract documents. The contract documents required 2 resolutions, the one accepting the grant and the other with the contract for the grant amounts. So this is a requirement within the contract documents, which Brett has and the staff has. So I don't think that the grant's going to go anywhere without both resolutions, because that's typically how it works. But you'd have to speak to the EDA about that. And this will just be another month delay.
So we approved going after these grants last year. Now we get the approval, we got the grants, yay, now we don't have to pay for the money, pay for this work.
Right.
You just got it.
Right.
But
So we give
we're
him-
telling you, you only have 5 months to do this work,
You have extended the redevelopment.
for 5 months. Okay.
Yeah,
We give him a
well,
contract for 5 months,
So we knew,
Extended.
but I'm just saying, we knew going into this that we probably weren't going to get all this money until now. But we want to hold his feet to the fire and say, okay, well, we finally got the money. You better be done in 5 months. I don't see that happening.
That's a little unreasonable.
No, well, the thing is, if we see progress, then you extend the contract. If you see nothing, he's still under $3 million contract doing nothing.
Well,
I don't think so.
I can't really speak because I haven't been on here as long as you all have, but something had to be done for us to get to this point. And we do own it. So I understand you want to see more things done, but we own this. Am I right?
Yes.
We own it. We applied for the grant,
Yeah,
and we approved the grant,
Yes.
right? So,
Township is the applicant on the grant, correct.
right, so this is what,
The redeveloper, we just did the paperwork and
right.
helped fill it out and all that, correct.
Yeah, I can't see, I think it's unreasonable to say all of this will be done in 5 months, but I think that's unreasonable.
We've been working on this since June of 2011. Now,
it's been a,
we spoke to him last time, we gave him a 5-month extension. A year ago, he promised me and the ex-mayor Kane that it would be done within a year. I have no problem extending a contract if we see something moving forward. If you see something moving stagnant and you have a $3 million contract, it'd be like you building a house. The builder tells you he wants $1 million for the house and he doesn't come back for 5 years, you'd be aggravated.
Is there a time limit in the grant?
What's that?
Is
Excuse
there
me?
a time limit in the grant?
There are certain time limits to accept it, and the grant is once it's executed, it's available for the township for.
Right, so that's
a period of
done.
time. What's that?
Yes.
That's done.
Well, it's not done yet. These two resolutions need to go into this grant, and it's,
Well, no,
the
no,
town
the
needs to sign.
first part of it's done. Now you need a contract.
Well, again, both of these resolutions are part of the
They're
the
dependent-
grant
they're dependent on
contract
each other.
documents, yeah, right. They're both part of the grant documents.
So we have to do both in order to,
In
for
order
it to
get
move
the grant-
forward?
The grant, yeah.
In order to get the grant, which is already in the budget, right?
Um,
It's not in the budget, but
We can always extend this contract. We can't cut it back.
In H,
You
you
give them a
amended,
blanket contract, it could take forever.
you amended the temporary budget to insert the grant,
that's what I thought.
and then
Yeah.
you inserted the grant. You accepted the grant, and aye.
Correct.
And now you're talking about awarding a contract and the amount of the grant to Mr. Day.
Okay.
But to be clear, we have to award the contract in order to accept the grant.
Yes.
Right.
The question is, can we award it for a 5-month period and then revisit it after 5 months when we go back to extend the redevelopment agreement?
Bob, couldn't we, regardless of the term of the contract, couldn't we terminate his contract due to non-performance?
Not within the 5-month period.
Pardon me?
Not within the 5-month period.
After the
We're
5
okay with
months.
the 5 months. I mean, if it goes longer than 5 months. I think
Yes.
that's what Richie's worried about, is if it goes longer.
Answer is yes.
Okay.
I just say we give them a 5-month contract. Then it all ends at the same time, and we revisit it from there.
My only request to that comment is it needs to be congruent with the end of the redevelopment.
I can't hear
I
you.
can't hear you.
Okay.
It needs to be equivalent to the end of the redevelopment agreement,
No,
not 5
exactly.
months
No,
from
I
today or.
totally
yeah.
understand that, yeah.
It's-
It would
it's
all end at the same
5
Putting on
time.
the
months
record,
from when we
that's all.
did the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
redevelopment,
Yeah.
correct?
Excuse me?
When we did the redevelopment, say, a month ago,
When that ends, this
5
ends.
months, they're going to be coincide with each other.
That's what is being
All right,
proposed.
then that's-
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Well, Mike, okay, so
Can-
now here's another question. If we, so we already approved accepting this grant,
So,
what happens to this grant if, after 5 months, he doesn't perform and we don't renew the redevelopment agreement? Are we gonna get in trouble with this grant? Are we gonna lose the grant?
I haven't read the grant, so I can't answer it specifically. But I will tell you this, if you give him 5 months, he's got 5 months. And at the end of 5 months, you look at it, and if you're not satisfied, I'll be more than happy to give you my opinion at that point. But sitting here right now, having not read the grant itself, I'm not in a position to answer your question. But I will tell you this, Carl. 5 months is 5 months. There are certain equitable principles that apply to contracts like this that will look at the conduct of the developer and say he's entitled to equity, he's entitled to a few months because of what he put into it already and the commitments that he's made to the township. I've worked with this gentleman for 10 years on this very project. So at the end of 5 months, it's up to you.
okay.
I believe-
I think that's
3 months,
fair
we'll know
enough.
if we're gonna extend it, and if not, just put it out to free bid.
I believe we have a motion in a second?
You have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution that's in your packet. Mr. Samian, are we altering this resolution?
Motion is-
How are we accomplishing,
Giving him a $3 million
there's no time in this resolution.
Right.
So how are we accomplishing this 5 months? You could look at the resolution. Are we altering the resolution? And then for Mr. Day, this resolution is drawn up by the DEP, not by myself. So if we alter this resolution, how will the DEP react to that? Do you know?
You're going to alter it by adding the 5-month period.
Okay, can you just give me the verbiage for that, please?
Do we have to vote on, vote on
I
the
don't- I-
motion
I
The
don't
item
think
on the
that-
floor is to approve it as is.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a good idea.
I think we vote no, and then we just do a motion that,
Rita, just the response, it's the EDA
I'm sorry.
that we're going to now. The DEP is already approved, so we're.
Okay, so
at
the EDA, this is their model or resolution?
Their model, ordinance, contract language, process, correct.
And you don't know that if we alter it, you don't know what will happen? Okay.
Do not.
Yeah, I don't think we can, I don't
Let
think
me
we
know
can
how you want to
alter.
alter it. Right now, there's
I
a
think
motion
we
and a
should call
second on
for
the
the
floor to
vote.
approve it as
Yeah,
it
just call the vote.
appears in
Yeah,
your
call the
packet.
vote.
Yeah.
Roll call vote, please.
This roll call vote is on the resolution as
On
it
the
appears in the
resolution as
packet.
is,
Thank you.
Without
Miss-
the 5-year period,
Correct.
Correct.
without the 5-month.
Month period.
5 months, I'm sorry.
Mr. Cheek,
No.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mr. Shanker,
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon,
Yes.
Mayor Patali,
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Good day, I hope you're successful. This has been, like Mr. Cheek said, it's been a long time coming, and, you know, like I
Well,
said, I hope you're successful.
He does have a big challenge because his way of changing this landfill has been a arduous job, especially with the pine lands looking over his shoulders. So we wish you all the best of luck with getting this done.
Moving on, 9A, resolution to increase the work week from 35 hours to 40 hours and annual salary of Jessica Mendez, Administrative Assistant to the Township Clerk, from $50,035.85 to $57,183.25, effective April 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Approvals. Regular meeting minutes of April 3rd, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Meetings, executive session meeting minutes of April 3rd, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Bill list total, $4,594,790.68.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali? All
Yes.
yes and carried.
Reports, Mr. Administrator.
I just want to thank all the department heads for really taking a hard look at this budget and making some really tough cuts. And if you circle back to one of the slides at the end of Cindy's presentation, we tabled quite a few positions to get that budget balanced. And we need help. We need help in Public Works. We need help in the police department. And I just want to thank everybody for putting their heads together and making this thing happen.
Very good. Mr. Solicitor.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Engineer.
Hello, everyone. Apologize for being late. So I submitted a April 17th Hot Topics list of the projects ongoing. Just to go through real quickly, the road program, we are going to be finishing the surveying this week and hope to have the design of the roadways done by the end of the month. The municipal aid projects and local freight impact for Atlantic Avenue Phase 2 and 3, they are at DOT for review. We hope to have comments back within another week or so, and then we'll be ready to bid those. The New York Avenue Phase 5, that is up to DOT as well, designed, and the same, looking for comments back from them. Nothing has started yet for Park Road at all. We did have a New Jersey DOT grant for Park Road for the sidewalk, but we have not done any work for that. Leapy recreational field concession stand improvements. We met with committee persons Shanker and Witherspoon to go over the project, and it was agreed to have a second story for storage area to be designed and go out to bid with, or rebid. We are currently waiting for the architectural plans to be completed and presented to the subcommittee for approval, and then we'll go out to bid. We also are going to go out to bid with a separate contract for the existing parking lot to get resurfaced or reconstructed, and that was agreed as well. We anticipate the bid date in midsummer. We are working with Public Works with the annual stormwater report. We were just informed as well that we received a grant for $15,000 to help with the stormwater ordinance and stormwater reports that were the annual stormwater report. So that benefits less money from the town to pay for those studies and ordinances that we did. Lastly, we just got approval or email approval that the Underhill Park ADA grant was approved for over $650,000 for the concrete walkways, fencing, and bathrooms at Underhill Park. So we will be starting.
I believe we got a $70,000 grant there too, right?
Yeah,
Just got that last
we
week.
just got a $70,000 infrastructure grant for the infrastructure/recreation grant for the fencing at Underhill.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, that was from DCA. Yes, that's separate. I didn't get a copy of that, sorry. I didn't have that in there. And lastly, we have a couple final inspections, one on Oak Lane subdivision for releasing final certificate of occupancies and doing a final punch list for that. And then Hamilton Mall is requesting a final inspection for release in a bond, a maintenance bond for their stormwater basins. We're coming in a little late, but I've been well aware of this for many years. So we are going to be doing inspections in the next 2 weeks. And, just driving by, there is a lot of maintenance still to be done along the edges of the basin, side slopes, and maybe to clean up the bottom of the basin so the water still infiltrates. So that includes my report. Sorry it was long-winded. Questions?
I have a question. On the Hamilton Mall, naturally, we all can see the sides and whatnot.
Mhm.
Do you get the 6-month reports for them basically
That's-
fluffing up the bottom of the basin?
That's what we're going to be asking for. We're going to ask for everything. So they are not allowed to receive the maintenance or the release of the bond until they have met everything. And it
Yeah.
doesn't look like they've met everything.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with you. Yeah,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
So is that at the expense of Hamilton Mall there?
Whoever owns it, and I believe it's the Hamilton Mall, yes.
Yeah, because they did a lot of subdividing of properties like Texas Longhorn.
It's
Yeah,
got to be
those-
Hamilton Mall because it's their bond that they're asking to.
Correct. It was the
So
owner.
it's Hamilton Mall. It
Yeah,
has to be.
it wasn't individual pad sites, if you're
Yeah.
thinking that. No,
That it?
that's it.
Township committee members.
Before you get there,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brett, could I get a copy of that maintenance bond?
For
For
the
the
Hamilton
mall.
Mall? Sure.
Because they're typically only 2 years.
Yeah, this one was unique when I was reading it from what EDA had before, is that it wouldn't be released until all of the maintenance was done and approved by the engineer. It was specific by the engineer,
They're all
so.
written differently.
They are, and you should have a copy of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll look at that.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Township committee, Dr. Witherspoon.
Yes, I will be attending the Atlantic County League of Municipalities 90th Gala. It's going to be on Friday night at the Thomasella Winery. Senator Gormley will be the guest speaker on that night. And I was trying to look through my emails because I thought I had got something from the Sustainable Green Team. I think we all did. were we able to do a risk? I think there was something that was time sensitive that we needed to do, or we're not doing that.
It's the ordinance that the state's trying to pass, or is it Pinelands that's trying to pass that tree ordinance?
Yes, I wasn't ready to discuss, but I have been looking at this. There is an ordinance that DEP is circulating for comments, and it's about a tree ordinance. And I don't have enough information. I didn't look at it in depth yet, but by next meeting I will, and I'll have a letter or a report. But I don't think it's something that, I think we should be commenting on it very strictly, because it is very forceful of an ordinance if you look at it, what I've been told.
Oh, I misunderstood, because I thought it was like a time limit that we had to do something at this meeting in order to.
Not for the
Sure.
not for the trees, no.
Okay.
It's under comment review. It's not even out for introducing. It's just for commenting.
Okay,
So you can send like a letter from the mayor to DEP stating, we don't like this criteria, and state it.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
That's my report.
Mr. Shanker?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that in my comments earlier about the budget that I included our Administrator Brett Knoll and Cindy Lindsay, our CFO. They spent a lot of nights here with us and was kind enough to do this on an individual basis, which is uncommon. So I thank you for that. But we all knew the importance of it, so I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Mrs. Link?
I think a hometown celebration is underway by the Mays Landing Merchants Association, and that will be June 24th, a week before July 4th. So it's in progress, and we hope that everyone participates in that. Just an observation as we're driving through downtown Mays Landing, inner Mays Landing, around, I see a lot of beautiful trees in bloom, the dogwoods, the cherry blossoms, and it's just wonderful to see that kind of landscape in our beautiful downtown Mays Landing. Thank you.
Mr. Cheek?
I as well would like to thank everyone that worked on the budget. It was a difficult year with what we were dealt with and everything else, and I appreciate everyone's effort. And that's all I have to say.
Very good. I had the chance to throw out the first pitch for MLAA baseball again this year. My pitching style really took a nosedive. It was wide to the left and in the dirt. I think there's quite a few videos of it too floating around. But I still enjoy doing that. That's a lot of fun. The fields look great. Great job to Public Works and to all the volunteers out there, because they do a lot of work out there also. I want to say Hannah Applegate. She is a graduate of ACIT. She's a gymnast, and she attends Lindenwood University. And they were the USAG Collegiate National Champions this year. Hannah had quite a few injuries, but she worked through them, and she placed third in the individual event for bars. So that's a pretty impressive thing to do in that division of college. And she's a sophomore, so she has 2 more years. Hopefully she can get a full year in with no injuries. I think that's about it for me. But echo what everybody said, and I said it earlier. Great job with everybody working on the budget. You guys really, you came in late at night and did everything you had to do, and everybody on committee, so don't have to keep talking about that. One more thing I want to talk about. there was an accident on the Black Horse Pike a few days ago. Troopers had somebody pulled over. One trooper was in the car, was in the squad, was in his SUV. The other trooper was outside of the car, talking with whoever they had pulled over, and they got hit at full speed by somebody who wasn't, I don't know what they were doing, not paying attention. I don't want to speculate on what happened. The car that hit him flipped over. That person was airlifted out. The troopers were taken by ambulance to the hospital. They're out of the hospital, correct? They're doing well. How about the woman? I'm not sure what happened. I know she was in pretty bad shape, but all I gotta say is, especially when you're on a 4-lane highway, when you see a police car or any public works, anybody on the side of the road, move over. I mean, there's actually a law with this. Please move over. Because if you stay in that lane and God forbid something happens, you drop something, whatever, and you just swerve over, there's video of it. Somebody's door cam caught it, and you can see the impact. And it's horrifying. And I can't imagine being a police officer and doing that. It's really scary. So please pay attention when you're driving, and tell your family members, your kids, pay attention. So praying that they're okay and they can get back to work. And the woman who unfortunately hit them, hopefully she's okay and everybody comes out of this all right. That's really it for me. Reagan, I'll see you tomorrow. Maddie, miss you, love you. I hope to see you soon. So we'll open it up to public comment. Mr. Carrigan, come on down.
So how many cents is the property tax on this here? Is it 7 cents?
5.
5.8? Okay. And also, 2 weeks ago, I took a ride down Getz Avenue off Old Egg Harbor Road, and to my surprise, there's houses back there on Getz Avenue.
Which one?
Geetz.
Is that the new one?
It's off Old Egg Harbor Road.
Off Old Egg Harbor Road?
Yeah.
Is that the new part of the development that's going in?
Landing.
Yeah,
Woods Landing?
And what's the other street? Humbert or Hubert or?
it could be the one,
There's
one of
quite
the
a,
cul-de-sacs.
yeah, there's 2 main drags off of Old Egg Harbor Road.
Starts with AH anyway.
Yeah, they're not done. There's, more phases.
And believe it or not, there are people living back there. So, little by little, we're losing our woods. You know?
But
Have you been back there, Carl?
I have not, no,
Yeah.
no. I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
no, I haven't been back there.
Geetz.
Nope.
It's off Old Egg Harbor Road.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in fact, it's right next to, what's the name of the other development? Woods Landing?
It's it's part of Woods Landing.
It's part of Woods Landing.
Okay. Okay. There's 2 Woods Landings then, because there's one across the street from the mall.
I don't,
Condos, townhouses.
that's Woodlands.
Woodlands.
That's right. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on down. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Dave French, just first line of my speech. And I live on First Avenue. If I appear nervous, it's because I am. I've never been here, and I am not a public speaker. However, I have been aware of things going on in the township. The hot button issue that I'm here to talk about is ATVs. I know you've all heard of them before, and you're tired of probably hearing it, but on First Avenue, we have a place called Mattie Hall Park, a park built and paid for the sole purpose of keeping our youngest and most impressionable children away from picking up bad habits and examples of older kids at other sports and playground locations. Having this park there lets little kids be little kids, and it's a very smart move in my opinion. However, every spring and summer, Mattie Hall Park and the adjacent township property become a training ground for beginner ATV riders. I see adults bringing youngsters to teach them to ride. They go round and round for hours at a time in a constant loop. They cut, create trails and jumps through the property. They use it like it was theirs to destroy. What's the message here for these kids? They think it's okay to ride here because Daddy brought them. To be clear, if these ATVs were just passing by on First Avenue on their way somewhere, anywhere, I would not have a problem. I would not be here in front of you, as long as they did the speed limit and had mufflers. But constant loop riding in front of my house has become a problem. Just last night, a regular problem rider was trying to taunt me into a reaction while I was doing some yard work. But let's go back to what the park was designed for. What is a mother to think pulling into a park with a little child and seeing the park, which is designated for them, being overrun with ATVs, sees condoms in the dirt, booze bottles, etc.? They will most likely have some reservations about staying, and that's a damn shame, excuse my language. I have spoken to the Hamilton Police Department, and they have run the adults out who are showing up in cars to sleep. I suspect drug use, but I can't prove it. I actually found 2 needles last summer. Now, I know it's not realistic to call the Hamilton Police Department for ATVs, because we all know that ATVs have a decided advantage over patrol cars in woods. ATV riders know this, and they feel empowered. Almost all properties in this area are 5 acres. Why do these people not ride on their own lots? Another point, none of the people I see riding illegally in Mattie Hall Park are residents of First Avenue. They are from somewhere else, and they are riding on public streets to get there. On a side note, while I'm not a lawyer, one has to wonder what the legal ramifications are to the township and ultimately us, the taxpayers, if someone were to be injured or worse on township-owned property. As of now, there's not one single detriment or deterrent on this township-owned property except common sense and respect. What I would like to see happen is it possible to get just a couple signs, all motorized vehicles prohibited? At least I won't hear the response back from them when I call them out. Well, I didn't know. They didn't know it wasn't their land. They didn't know they weren't allowed to ride. I come in here and hope that while the conversation about ATVs is hot and heavy, to ask to get signage installed and to see what else can be done by the township officials and me as a resident in good standing. I look forward to your response, and I thank you for your time. I made a copy in small print if you guys wanted it. I didn't know.
Yeah, give it to,
I'll take a copy and make copies for them.
I want to make sure that I clarify completely, folks, I am not in any way disparaging the police department or the public works department, okay? I know they're both under budget. I both know they do what they can do within the parameters they got. But I live right across the street. I'm an adult. I can look out for things and take appropriate action. I don't know what I can do, though. These kids just, they don't have any respect for anybody.
Didn't we just pass an ordinance, Chief?
Yes.
I'd like to take, I was just talking to Chris, him and I are going to go out tomorrow, take a look at the park and see if there's any other concerns. So, we'll do our best, and if I can get your number, we'll follow up.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And feel free to email me, us, anytime. You could call in and leave a message, and I will get back to you.
I'm a diehard hunter, so.
Come on down.
Miss Cordes.
Hi, Debbie Kraus, Strafford Lane. I came in before all said about the marijuana grow house that they want to put at the site of Jean's Farm Market. And I know that I asked everybody up there if they've ever been to one, and I have a few people in the neighborhood that are going to be going out, doing some research, doing some smelling, doing some picture taking of the different warehouses in the area. And I just wanted to come tonight to just give you an example of like what we've been working on. This is just Driftwood Lane, and there's about 88 houses right on this street. And the orange is Jean's Farm Market. I'm sorry. Jean's Farm Market is in the orange down at the bottom. The property is about 1,200 feet on the Black Horse Pike, and yes, it's commercial, highway commercial. It's only 500 feet deep, and they misrepresented when they did their presentation because the property is not 18 acres. It is about 13. They represented that the lot next to them, which they own, is not a highway commercial piece of property. It is a 70-acre zone. So, of course, they can't build on that. My point here is everything in the green is a house, okay? There's a house on all these properties. The things that are in the blue, we have 3 properties behind these houses that are township-owned properties that are reserved for a park, okay? You want to put a marijuana grow house right here. These 3 properties right back here are all reserved for a park. You have this property here, this huge property. This is owned by the Department of Environmental Protection. They obtained the property, I'm assuming someone turned it over to them, maybe in a density transfer, gave it to the Department of Environmental Protection to protect it. Because everything back up here is protected, it's the Great Egg Harbor River. There's another tax map that I have back there. There's another 80-plus houses down High Bank. That is our neighborhood, okay? And they want to put this grow house with only 500 foot of frontage down Cherry Lane, okay? When I was at a meeting during the summer, I think it was during the summer, there was talk about the industrial park and how you wanted to do the warehouses in the industrial park. And, which is a great idea, that's what the industrial park was all about. But I remember somebody asking, could we make a 1,000-foot buffer between properties, between buildings? And I'm thinking, they have about 1,200 feet on the Black Horse Pike and only 500 feet of depth. They couldn't even put a 500-foot buffer to the houses that are directly right across the street. Most of this property is all clear cut. It's just vacant land. And my question.
There you go. Thank you.
My question is, we have all this property in the industrial park, and ever since I can remember, we have been trying to get people into the industrial park, okay? And I don't know how much land we have left there right now, but why wouldn't we demand that the only place that grow warehouses or pot producing places can go is the industrial park? That way, the township gets leases on all the properties get bought up, we get more ratables, and it keeps it out of a residential area. And again, we're only like 160 houses up there. It's just one quiet neighborhood. You're talking about putting in warehouses with tractor trailers coming in, with warehouses that don't fit in the area. And I understand it is a highway commercial piece of property, but to put it in that area instead of the industrial park, or how about let's take the Hamilton Mall? Let them become a grow warehouse. Who's going to care? You know, that it's got parking lot all the way around it, and I'm sure they can maintain 1,000-foot buffers, but up here they can't. And it just, to me, it just seems unfair that the township wouldn't take advantage of the fact that we do have all that property in the industrial park that we could be demanding before any other properties are zoned for grow houses, that they use the industrial park first. Isn't that what we're looking for, ratables?
Yeah.
I mean, are there a lot of properties left in the industrial park?
No,
No, not really.
the largest parcel has recently been subject to a letter of intent to purchase. That's the 98-acre parcel. There are other smaller parcels in there, but under the ordinance that exists, Debbie, it's I'm going by memory here, and at my age, you shouldn't go by memory. But I think the buffer is 500 feet between cannabis licensed properties.
And 1,000 feet building to building
Building to building.
for schools, churches,
Not residents.
not residents.
So,
How does that make any sense? I mean, you have a property that is right here. All these are houses. This is where they're gonna put the grow houses. There is a house right directly across the street. And you're telling me that it's okay to have a buffer for an industrial park, but not a residential area? And again, they misrepresented how many acres they actually had. And to me, that means that you should rescind your approval for them to be able to go ahead with their next step. They knew it wasn't 18 acres. I mean, first off, I was surprised they didn't even know what zone. They were talking about highway commercial, and they were talking about the AG zone. And no, it's highway commercial, and they misrepresented themselves, and I feel as though you should rescind your approval for them to go forward.
there has been no approval.
Hmm?
There has been no approval.
It's
What
just
did- What
redevelop,
was the,
MOU.
It was just
No
local
MOU.
endorsement.
It was
It
a
was
letter.
just local endorsement.
It was a-
it's just an
it's
endorsement?
local
Yeah, we didn't
endorsement
approve it.
for the state, for them to get their
But they
license.
needed that in order to go to the state.
Correct.
Exactly. Rescind it. That's what I'm asking.
Along with a whole lot of other people.
Yeah.
Everybody is jumping on this bandwagon.
Right.
So there is a possibility they won't get it.
Right. And again, I don't understand why they can't go in the agricultural zone. If it's an agricultural grow, why can't they go out there? Why come into a residential neighborhood?
I believe because they own the property.
Who? Well, the
The
Anacones
family
own the
owns.
property, but everybody knows that this is just a way for another company to come in, use the Anacones, give them a piece of the pie, and then they turn around and do what they want to do. Everybody that I've talked to that has dealt with the marijuana grow houses or dispensaries or whatever, it's all people that have nothing to do with where they're going to be setting up their stores and their warehouses. The people that were here, they were from New York, the law firm from New York. You know why? Because I looked them up, and that's all they deal with is the marijuana warehouses. So, or the getting the permits. And you know what? They don't live here. They don't live down here. It's just that I found out that the approval came, or that they took your approval and went to the next step, which is the state, and said, we have the approval of the township. And
The MOU.
I don't know, can they rescind it?
So let's be clear, there's been no approval,
No approval.
okay? All we do is give a letter to anybody who comes in that they can take to the state that says we are not against what they want to do. It doesn't mean it's been approved. They have to have that letter in order to get processed for any kind of licensing, whether it is to distribute or to grow. That's the first step in all this process. So if you're saying that they don't have enough land there to do what they want to do, they can't do the distances that are needed, and it's not going to
No,
work for
they
them.
don't, it's not that they don't have enough land. It's that I heard that they were asking for 500 and 1,000-foot side yards, and I said they couldn't even maintain a 500-foot buffer. They only have 1,200 feet on the Black Horse Pike, and they only have 500 feet on Cherry Lane. So there's no way they're going to be able to maintain, and according to the highway commercial, I think they only have to have a 30-foot side yard. I mean, and this is where the accident happened, right right at Carlson's, right at Cherry Lane. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, it's going to change the whole neighborhood, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see that happen, and there's a lot of people in the street that don't want to see it happen. And again, I know that the redevelopment and rehabilitation, does it have to go through them, or can they just put those warehouses up?
It has to go through redevelopment.
And how do you go to that committee meeting? Or you
That's
can't?
all done here.
Okay. So township committee's going
If
to be
and when they
the-
come back, if they get their approvals from the state, they will be back.
Then they come back.
They'll come back to us, and we'll look at
Then-
what they're going to do.
And
Then
then
that
they're
is-
going to need you to, but if they fight it and say, well, this is highway commercial and we're within the zoning, no?
Can I speak, Mayor? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
They have to come in with a redevelopment plan.
Okay.
Redevelopment plan gets created by redevelopment committee, subcommittee, and the planning board before anything.
Okay.
So if there's criteria that the subcommittee wants to see on the specific piece of property, they have to adhere to it because it's a redevelopment plan.
Okay.
So there can be additional criteria.
Okay, so you could set the side yards and the
They
front
can
yards.
set whatever they want.
Okay.
Yep.
And when will we know that?
Don't know.
I have no idea. We haven't heard back from them, as far as I know. Brad,
I haven't heard anything since they were here.
Like I said, it's a very quiet community up there. We're up at nobody bothers anybody up there. It's just, and we have a lot of kids up there, and I just hate to see it, see it happen. Barbed wire fences and security lighting. And one thing that really got to me when I was researching the grow warehouses is the fact that they will be using chemicals on their plants, okay, to keep, just like anybody else does. And where does it go up in our neck of the woods? It goes into the ground because everything is septic up there. There is no sewer system. There is nothing. Anything that goes in there goes right down into the ground, hits the water, and, you have well water. Everybody up there has well water and septic systems. And what happens to us in 20 years when they find out that something that happened here because of a grow house has caused damage to people, their health? If it was a sewer system, okay, it's going to be cleaned out. But that is, I don't know, I'm assuming that's the Cohansey Aquifer up there. And, if that gets polluted, what's New Jersey going to do? But that was it. I will keep an eye out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Mr. Rogers?
Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. I have a question that I would like to address directly to the solicitor, if I may.
You direct it to me, and I can direct it to him.
There was a conversation this evening talking about the reassessment of properties. Now, it was talked about in the context of redevelopment. But the statement was made that after every sale, the assessor has the ability to increase the assessment of the property. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you did. The assessor has the ability to invoke an ad valorem tax up or down based on the sale of property or based upon the sale of similar property, just as you would in a tax appeal.
And that's done on a case-by-case basis?
Every time a piece of property is sold in Hamilton Township, the assessor gets a 4A1 form from the clerk's office. And in it has information with respect to the square footage of the home, the value of the sale, the land assessment, the building assessment, all of the pertinent information. The assessor has the constitutional right
to take that information, because he has a duty, an absolute duty under the Constitution, to levy an ad valorem, meaning add value. Ad valorem means based on value, to either increase, decrease, or maintain the status quo of that assessment. So if you sold your house today, Harry, and Bill Johnson would get this form I'm talking about, he could go to your purchaser and say, I have decided that this is not an arm's length transaction, and I have decided to increase your assessment. Your purchaser would then have the right to go to either the county tax tax challenge that.
The reason I asked the question, some years ago, before we did our reassessment, valuations had become horribly lopsided, where you had people living in very much, very advanced value homes, paying a fraction of the taxes of people who had purchased recently. And the reevaluation happens to straighten those things out.
I have tried hundreds of them.
I'm well aware of that. That's why I asked the question tonight. I didn't realize it was in the purview of the assessor to do that at each transaction's turnover.
It's not just his purview, it's his duty.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Motion to close?
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? We will adjourn to executive session, litigation and attorney-client privilege, Kowalski versus Township of Hamilton.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matter, which is exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. Kowalski et al. Versus Township of Hamilton, litigation and attorney-client privilege. I do not know if we're coming back out or not. So be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session to confirm the results of the executive session. Be it further resolved that the results of the executive session will be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential. We need a motion and a second.
Do I have a motion?
To adjourn to executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it.
It's 8:27.
So I'm making a motion to come back into session,
Yeah.
and then making a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn. No action will be taken.
Make a motion to come back in session.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Against? We're back in session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Against? Adjourned.
There you go.
Yeah.